What's up, everybody? Daniel Allison, the average dude, along with my cousin,
Jenny Winny.
and you are watching Jenny Winny and the Average Dude, our weekly LinkedIn Live podcast broadcast show. Thank you for joining us. If you're in the Spartanburg area, it's raining outside, so this is a nice little reprieve. Spend what, an hour with us, Jenny?
Yep. I don't mean to stress you.
Oh boy.
You're a little bit glitched.
A little glitchy.
But it's not bad.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Well, thanks for letting me know that I'm a little bit glitchy, and that way I will think about it going forward. No, hey, you know what? The technology, sometimes it's raining. I don't know if that affects it or not, but I pay $80 a month for Spectrum services.
It doesn't matter.
And I still get the glitch. I don't understand. I mean, how much do I have to pay to do without the glitch?
Probably 85. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking $85 would do it.
Yeah. Now, do you do the combo with the Spectrum deal? You do?
Yes. You know what's ridiculous?
What?
Is that I don't have a home. I mean, I have a home phone number, but I'll be here. I'm like, I'm going to drop it from the bundle. Save me a little money. It's going to cost me more money to drop it.
Yeah.
That's dumb. I said, I'll keep the phone.
That's strange, isn't it?
Yeah. That's stupid.
But I tell you what, when I first got internet, I said, I just want internet. And now they charge me they get their money's worth. But they had salespeople after salesperson calling me, wanting me to add services. I mean, you want to talk about not hearing no. These people, they didn't like hearing no.
I'm sorry, I got distracted because my husband started to print something. And I just sent him a text that said, no more printing.
Wow. You had to get strong.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
because he just came in to get it. He don't look phased either.
Yeah. Now, you know what happens is when I'm talking to someone, when I see that you're not paying attention to me, like right now.
Yeah, sorry.
Very difficult.
It is. I'm telling you what. And you know what? It's good now. We're good. We are good.
Because there's nothing like being, I've got a co-host and I'm talking, and I'm not sure if the people out in the audience are listening or not, but I know my co-host isn't. I mean,
I'm listening, Daniel. Okay, I'm listening. I'm with you.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for joining me today, Jenny Winny.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Is there anything else that you could mention about? Maybe is my time messed up?
No.
You told me I had tech issues.
No, you look very, very GQ-ish.
GQ-ish. Okay, so now we're working back the other way to kind of build me up. I like that. So
very, very GQ.
I was going to ask you a question.
Well, go ahead.
How's your week been? How's your week been?
Good. I went and saw. See, you know how cultured I am.
Cultured. Yeah,
I went and saw another play in Charlotte.
Oh wow.
Yes, it was The Temptations.
The Temptations.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm going this weekend to see To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, now that might be pretty good.
Yeah. And Atticus Finch. Is it Finch? I can't remember. Yeah, Atticus Finch. He is played by, I can't remember the guy's name, Thomas, that was the John Boy off of The Waltons.
Wow. Yeah.
Richard Thomas.
Wow. That goes pretty deep there.
It does. It does.
Really deep. What I would say is in school, I was able to maintain a decent grades, not great grades, decent grades. But here's the catch. Okay. I never read the books, Jenny. Never actually. So you do a book report. You're supposed to read the book, right?
Let me figure this out real quick. Okay, go ahead. Good grade.
What?
Yeah. I'm doing the math on that.
Good grade
minus no reading.
No reading. Never read the books.
Why?
I was never able to, and of course, I know now this was kind of an excuse, and I have to kind of push through to focus, but I don't watch TV. Why do I not watch TV? I can't stay focused on the movies, right? It's got to really grab me, and I never
just grabbed you.
No, but I would get the highlights of it, and then.
You know what that's called? Cliff Notes.
And then get creative. Oh, these days it makes it easy with all the information on the internet.
Lord, I know. You're
I'd
like,
have been the valedictorian.
you could have been. You're like, didn't read one book.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of ways to do that. So I've been doing go. I see you've got something that's more exciting than whatever I was going to say.
It is. It is. So I already told you, but I'm going to tell you again. First of all, you know what? I was with my 2 daughters and 2 grandkids, and we went to eat lunch after. We went school shopping. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I walk in, and there's somebody with a camera like this. Video. And I look over, and it's you. I'm like, it's average food. Oh, my gosh. Okay, that's not the exciting part.
Oh,
Then I go, and I'm just eating my lunch. And
yeah.
I look over, and this woman comes over, and she says, hey, just wanted to tell you, I love your videos.
She loves your videos.
And I stood up and I said, I feel so seen right now.
So seen.
I put my arm around her. I said, you have just made my day.
Now, do you know this person? What's the connection? I mean,
I don't. She says she's been shopping with me since the beginning of time. Like since we first had our first store that was like, a hole in the wall. So that made me.
I think it is cool when people notice you for doing. Obviously, they're little fun things that we do using social media to promote whatever our goods and services are. But to be recognized and for someone to enjoy it, that's cool.
Oh, it was cool to me.
That's cool. So that's good. So I've been doing some prospecting, old school prospecting.
Wow,
right?
that is.
Just
you're out there like digging.
No, not that kind of prospecting. Sales prospecting, Jenny. Not sifting for little gold. But as you know, we needed some guests for the podcast.
Yes.
So I've been prospecting and talking to a lot of people. Have I not? Have I seen
you have. That's what I said this morning. I said, good night, Daniel. And you're like, what? It's just a rainy day. I'm not doing. I was like, I'm just saying. You've just been like, boom, boom, boom. This person's on this week. I was like, okay.
Yeah. So we went from we had a little time period there where we didn't have as many guests lined up, and I was trying to catch up and play catch up. That's not the way to do it. You've got to prospect. You've got to get the calendar full. I know that, but obviously there's other things going on. So
we do. We have other things.
I don't have a lot of time to do it, but when I do it, I go all in with it, and then I also I've been using the same. I've been in that same mode at work too. So I had someone from my ING group. He said, let's go do some team prospecting. So he's in the recycling business, but he gets in the car with me and we go out and we do this old school calling on plants and facilities. You've got someone with you. And I forgot how much I enjoy that, right? I mean, because having someone with you, and I don't know, it just makes it different.
It does.
And you kind of feel, I don't know. It works out really well. So we're going to do some more of that in the future. So it's been a prospecting week. It's been a good week for me.
I know. That's awesome, though.
And we've got a great guest today, don't we, Jenny?
We have a guest. Let's just say we have a guest.
Oh, stop short of great.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
A phenomenal guest.
Yeah, a phenomenal guest. So I did a video on LinkedIn. The neat thing about having a podcast is being able to introduce people that we already know to everyone else. And sometimes that's a little different, isn't it? I mean, you interview somebody you don't know and you kind of come up, you're getting to know that person. But then other times you know the people. And then, so that's a little bit of a different dynamic, but always fun.
It's fun.
Absolutely. So our guest is Brian Murdoch. And do you know Brian, Jenny?
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So we grew up with Brian, to let the cat out of the bag here. But Brian is a market executive with Fidelity Bank, new bank here in town. A lot of exciting things happening. But he's been in banking his entire career. We've known Brian. We've got some great stories, lots to talk about. So let's bring Brian onto the podcast right now. Here he comes.
Woo! And the crowd cheers.
Good morning,
Brian.
Come out.
Mr. Dude. Mr.
Yeah. No average. You just left the average out, huh?
Well, that's right. Yeah. I thought that was more of a middle name.
Yeah, it is. Daniel Average Dude.
So,
Yep.
so Brian, I've got to ask you. I've got to preface before we ask you any questions. I've got to ask you. Do you mind if we ask you a few questions? Can I ask you a question?
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I'll preface it. Can I ask you a question? Someone we near and dear to our hearts.
Very fine. Let me ask you just one question.
Just
Let
one.
me ask you a question.
Yep. If you're
I was thinking about.
we're
I
kidding.
know Jenny doesn't remember this, Brian, but you remember Chris Farley? He had that show, and he's talking about. Remember that time we went down here.
Yeah, remember that time. Oh, Daniel, I didn't want to mention it till just now. The picture on your wall is a little crooked.
Oh,
No, I'm just.
yeah, he's piling on like Jenny. He's piling on.
I was like, is it? What?
Yeah.
I was more disturbed than you were.
He was paying attention to earlier when you called me glitchy. Remember when you were trying to kill my momentum?
I'm sorry. I
was a little disturbed when Jenny went and saw a play called The Temptations. What is that about?
What is it about, Jenny?
Oh, is it the singers or the? I was thinking it was more just the.
Oh, I thought you were just like. Oh, I thought you were being funny, Brian.
I was. It doesn't sound.
It's about the Temptations and how they got their start. And
I thought you were talking about like A Temptation.
it was based on Adam and Eve. And,
yeah, the original Temptation.
We know how that ended.
Yeah.
But no, it was good. But it was so good. It was really good. I love seeing those kind of things and seeing how they started. And there was been like, you think of a group and there was, well, how many Temptations were there? 4, 5? But anyway, they kept changing. They kept changing. Yeah, they kept having to, one would get fired, they'd bring in a new one, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah, I met a couple of the Temptations in Las Vegas.
Did you?
Yeah, I was at MGM Grand and went into a little bar area. 2 of the Temptations were there, and one was chatting with Elvis, and the other one was chatting with Bono.
I was like, what? I believed you up until
the show. Yeah,
I believed you so much up until.
Yeah. Actually, I had to do a double take, but Bono was about 5'3", so that's when
and a woman.
That's when it started to fall apart. But they were nice to everybody, and signing autographs.
Yeah, I saw when I was at MGM Grand, I saw Carrot Top in the lobby.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Carrot Top is ripped.
I mean, ripped. Daniel, yeah, you were there. He's ripped. Whew. I said, good.
Yeah, which surprised me. I didn't think if somebody said, "Is Carrot Top a muscular person?" I would have thought no.
No. Yeah, he had guns.
Yeah, he had some guns. Now, Brian, do you listen to podcasts?
I do every now and then. I mean, it's one of those things when I have the time, but I'm more of a music guy.
A music guy, yeah. Yeah, what kind of podcast? What makes a good podcast for you? I mean, is there a particular topic, a particular style? You like the Joe Rogan type stuff? Is that
the true crime?
The true crime, yeah. Now I did get on some of those. There was one out of there was a murder in Greenville, and I was trying to remember which one that one was. I kind of got involved in that series where the wrong guy was arrested, and it was pretty interesting.
Well, I'm gonna need you to do some research and let me know. I'm out.
It's been a while since I've done that. Going back in the day, I was in New York for a little bit and listened to Howard Stern really before he went more national, and he was hilarious.
Yeah,
and I like
the interviewer, man.
He's mean though. He's mean. He used to be mean. He's mellowed out a lot.
He's mellowed, yeah. Sometimes some of the things he would say, you'd wince. But the thing is that some of these characters would come back. You'd think this guy's never coming back on the show, and then 2 weeks later, he's back. So
it's like our Eric and Rodney show, our Friends with Robin.
Yeah,
they say, and I'm like, and then I'm like, well, I guess I'll listen to them again tomorrow.
Yeah. What I will say, if y'all seen Joe Rogan, when Joe Rogan was on there, it was on Howard Stern. Have y'all seen that?
I haven't seen that one.
What's in it? So you can go back and watch the YouTube clip of it. So Joe Rogan went on there. Of course, this is before Fear Factor. He's just a comedian. He's good on the camera and he's going back and forth with Howard, but Howard just just picks him up. I mean, he's just nailing him. And so Joe Rogan actually has, like he said, I'm not going on that. So he did what Brian said. He went on, he went off, but then he came back.
Yeah.
And that second time, he's like, I had enough, you know. So the other one with Howard Stern I remember is, you remember when the murderer or supposed murderer called into his show?
No.
So it was a random deal. And this is on YouTube as well, but somebody calls into the show and he says, "Hey Howard, this is," you know, he doesn't give his name, but he said that he'd killed X number of people, and Howard starts questioning him live on the air, asking him why he does it. But you really see Howard's interview skills when you watch that clip.
Yeah.
You know, so
his interview skills. You know, what's the name of the guy that sang Carolina on My Mind?
James Taylor.
Taylor.
Is it James Taylor? Okay, yeah.
His interview of James Taylor is one of the most interesting.
Really?
The Beatles. He was actually the first act that the Beatles, they had a record label. He was the first act that they put under contract. He was John Lennon's best friend. And then he told the story about how he wrote Carolina on My Mind. It was in a couple of minutes sitting on a park bench in London. And it was it was like 15 minutes. And some of his other songs had taken years. Yeah. So Howard Stern, his interview.
Oh, that's awesome.
Amazing.
That's the kind of things you like to hear about. I mean, things that we didn't know.
Yeah, well, a lot of these guys, these musicians, these artists, they'll say, as far as like a song goes, it's like they find the song, right? The song's already written, and they have this kind of epiphany, this inspiration, and so then you get that quick turnover. Has that been y'all's experience in life? It's like when it's right, you know it's right, and you run with it.
Yeah, I think that's called my intuition.
Intuition. Brian, what do you think?
It's right. It's right.
Yeah, sometimes if you try to force something, or it takes too long, or is too much decision making, and it turns out you're trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole, and doesn't work. So sometimes when something's right, and just move on with it. Actually, you think about it, some of my biggest decisions have probably been made that way, for good or for bad. Probably.
Yeah, I agree with you, and. Just taking it like with social media, usually the first time I do a video, the first take is the one that I post, because after that, I start overthinking it. I start changing it. I start looking at the picture being crooked or my tie being crooked, and you pick it apart, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, and then when I'm writing a post, if you notice, I never do any like written post on LinkedIn. It's because of what we're talking about. It's like you start just
overthinking,
start picking it apart, and it doesn't come across with that natural. It loses that natural flow. So,
yeah,
I got to bring up something here, y'all.
Go for it.
So anyway, just like you'd already mentioned, Daniel, that we've known Brian a good long time.
Our life, yeah, we grew up together. So
yeah, I just want everybody to see that we're telling the truth here. Now, for those that are not sure what you're seeing right here, do not be alarmed.
I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see all these smiling faces.
But that fine-looking lady, the third one on the...
Oh, you mentioned you first. Is that how it works, Chinny?
Yeah, that is. That's exactly how it works. So, I don't even know. That girl with the striped top on up front, that I'm not sure... with that bowl haircut. Well, we all had bowl haircuts.
So what we've got Brian's sister in the back row. That's Beth. She's obviously taller than everyone there. She played center on that basketball team. And then of course little Roger, he's actually the same height at this point that he is.
That's my brother, the one with the Duke t-shirt on.
Next to Brian or next to Roger, we have Brian there.
That's Brian.
Yep. In front of Brian, we have a young man that seems to be distracted. His head's in the clouds, I bet.
The average kid.
The average kid.
But
Who knew that one day he'd grow up to be a dude?
The good thing is that the average kid coordinated his top with my top, because we both have on red with some stripes. You've got the stripes on your arm that are the same as the stripes in my arm.
Oh, yeah. It was meant to be. And
it was meant to be. Yeah.
Jenny's got that bowl cut, looks like. That's good. And then Brent and David both have that body posture of we don't care about you. You know, look, they're kind of rejecting all. They're not. That's not open body posture there. And David, look at David. You would have thought he would have just turned out to be a motorcycle. I don't know. So that's my brother there on the end with the sunglasses. But,
yeah, but this is how long. I mean, and this is even older. I mean, we have younger pictures than this. This was the one I put my hands on.
Yeah, I appreciate you picking that one. There are some older pictures where we're all a little smaller, where I was giving Jenny dreamy eyes. But I think over the years,
it's like our parents stopped to take pictures of us in the furniture store.
Yeah,
it's like
you got that bowl cut, and I'm kidding.
Brian's like, that hair is on fire.
My hair, my bangs were like on that day. I from a barber. I was probably 12 or 13.
When what?
I like a real barber. I may have had a few, but most of the time my mom cut my hair.
Yeah.
Well, Grandma cut Daniel's.
Grandma cut mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I went to a real deal barbershop down here, right here in Spartanburg. We're going to actually talk to her.
Oh, yeah.
The lady that owns Bare Knuckle Barbershop downtown. So she's the real deal. She's done a lot of cool things. She was like in, obviously Bare Knuckle, right? She was a fighter and does a lot of fun things. So we're going to talk to her soon.
That'd be interesting.
The barbershop. That's how I got this new dude.
It looks
Jimmy
good.
Anything about it?
I like it. I noticed it. I did notice it.
Did
I noticed it actually in your video yesterday. Yes, I did. But I do have a question that's kind of like business-like. Because aren't y'all building a new office, Brian?
We are.
Is it? So when will it be? So it's Fidelity Bank in Spartanburg, but when will it be finished? And where is it?
Those are excellent questions.
Now, wait a minute. Now, I had this. This is the thing about a podcast. So that was supposed to be the kind of, as we got towards like 75%, we were going to hit. I had all these great lead up questions, but you know what? It doesn't matter, Brian. Tell us about the new bank.
Danny's the one. He was like, "Could you get on and ask him?" And I was like, "Okay."
So, Brian, let's start here. You've been in banking for how many years?
So I've been in banking now almost 29 years.
29 years.
That's almost as long as I've been alive.
I know.
So your dad was in banking, so people may know Bob Murdoch.
Yep.
Was in banking. So he was in banking his entire career.
He was 42 years before he retired.
Wow. So I started thinking about, anytime I have somebody on the show, I kind of put myself in their shoes and I think of the experience, all of the things that Brian has seen. And with banking, I would say the thing that you see a lot of is people making decisions, right? They're making decisions on buying a car, starting a business.
Yep.
Maybe they're getting married. You see a lot of different things because money, that's kind of a big deal, right?
Kind of.
So I was curious, Brian, with your experience in banking and some of the decisions, some of the patterns, when people make mistakes with money, because you probably have seen situations go bad. What are some of the things that maybe lead to making poor decisions and getting involved in something that they regret later? Does anything come to mind?
Sure. A couple of things. So, there's some folks that, as I came up through banking, I was more on the consumer side, the residential side. So I dealt with people that were more W-2 employees. They worked for a company and maybe had for many years. And some of the things that I guess I would see then would be when someone got that promotion or started to move up the corporate ladder, what did they start doing? Well, they don't contribute more to the 401k like maybe would be the most prudent thing. They'll buy a car, normally the first thing. And we all need a car. But generally, car gets upgraded, your watch gets upgraded. All these things that decline in value and only add to an additional payment or a use of cash. And then the house. And so all those things start to climb. And, over time, sometimes even though the salary is much higher, there's really not much to show. I guess some of the folks I've seen over time that have not adjusted standard of living. I mean, I've seen people in their 30s, house paid off. They got money they're putting away in retirement. But the key to that is self-discipline. So self-discipline that, hey, even if my income level goes up, instead of thinking about just today, which, some of those things are absolutely necessary, but having the discipline to say, I'm going to put that amount aside, or, instead of buying a new house, I can freshen things up. I think that's one of the things from, W-2 employees is very quickly, anything that you would have had as far as liquidity, cash going in, to give you some breathing room. If the economy does turn, if you do lose your job, if all those things, and people put themselves in tough situations. So that's probably then on small businesses. It's I think it's different. Some of the most successful companies, sometimes they'll be, a company where they'll have 2 or 3 employees, and the business is going well, sales are good, they're making money, all these things. Not everybody. A lot of folks want to do is, well, I'm going to hire 2 more people. I'm going to buy 2 more trucks. I'm going to it's sometimes, and you lose quality of life trying to reach, something, grab that ring out there when really, and I've had conversations plenty of times, why as a banker, we are here to listen and to help talk through something. And if I just took, when somebody comes in, they want to buy a building, and I said, Leah, let's work on it, do it. I don't think it's doing my job.
Yeah, but I have a question though, Brian. So I agree about you start making more money and you spend and okay, or whatever. But also, do you think there's an opposite where you're making money, but you never, you just, you hold on to it where you don't ever do anything?
Is there a balance? I hear you. People want to flex. People want, hey, I'm making a lot of money. I want everybody to know it. That's why we buy the car, right? But the truth is, there's probably, but then you see the guy that never spends any money.
Yeah.
And maybe that would help him. Do you think there's a balance there, Brian?
Or businesses? I think businesses too. That's one of my issues is that sometimes it might be, you could hire someone to delegate to do this, instead of you having to always, but it's like, you also don't want to come off the money, but it might be money well spent. You know what I mean? So
obviously balance. One of the things that I see in small business, exactly what you're talking about, Jenny, is sometimes you'll have someone that runs a small company, and whatever that business is, they know it, understand it. But they are not accountants,
right?
Or a bookkeeper. If some of those things, because you could be missing out on expenses you should be taking. They could have a conversation with your CPA that maybe you aren't. You may be leaving actual money on the table. So agreed. Yeah. There are certain things where if you really have a weakness and you've got a strength going one direction, if something's taking your time away from that one direction, then yes, there are times. And that lots of times I'll have folks come in and they'll have a good revenue company. They may have a smaller company, 3 to 5 million in revenue, and they're still doing their books, or they're, the husband or wife's coming in on Friday afternoon and it's a mess.
Doing payroll it's a mess. It's a mess.
It's a mess. Now, if you don't have other things you can be doing with your time that make money, then probably do it yourself. But that's something. One of those things is small businesses, you have got to have legs under the table. And so you need to make sure you have, and these things some cost, but having a good attorney, have a good attorney that that you can go to with questions about real estate or your company. Have your CPA that you can call. Have a banker.
I know, and I wasn't going to say that, but it's true. I made a joke to Daniel, and I was like, I know we're having Brian on, but I feel like it's always like, wherever he goes, usually I try to follow, because I know, and not just because we've grown up together and everything, but I know that I can pick up the phone and say, Brian, help me understand, even if I wouldn't, which you make jokes sometimes, but even if I was just asking your opinion, you're like, and then you'll go somewhere, but I want to know. I know you will give me the answer. And so there's something to be said
Yes. It's kind of like the HVAC business. You want to send a technician that knows. I don't like ambiguity. It's like, I think it might be. No, if somebody's been doing it a long time, they're probably going to know the answer. Someone you can trust, right?
Someone you can trust.
I mean,
And they say there's three things. I had a boss I worked for, and he called it the 3 A's for a banker. You've got to be accurate. So the information that you're given, don't be afraid to say, I don't know the answer to that question.
yeah.
So be accurate. You got to be accessible.
That's the thing right there. That to me is number one, accessible.
And it's unfortunately, banking has gotten a reputation, or bankers, of not being able to reach them on the phone, having to go through 2 or 3 people, talk to answer machines. And the last one is being accountable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I say, hey, we're going to have this put together and for a loan closing or a purchase,
Yep.
if I say it's going to be at the end of the month, I've got to do it. And so with those 3 things, normally if you take care of those 3 things,
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate you guys, is people are normally happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
But to me, it's like, this is something that I don't know if you learned from your dad or whatever, but it's that there's something to be said about that. You know, it's kind of like, I hate to say it, like the hometown banker or whatever, but it's not just some big conglomerate where, you know, you don't know.
800 number.
Yeah.
Like an 800 number, right? You want to be able to call Brian and not to the next attendant. That's
Press 1, press 3, now enter the, you know, and it's like, so it's just, and to know that you're going to get an answer. So, I mean, I do feel like there's something to be said for that. Even talking things out. I've talked things out with Brian before. I'll say, is this smart? And he'll go, I mean, even if it would benefit him, I like the fact that you'll say I wouldn't do it.
Right. You know? Oftentimes we can make something work on paper.
Yeah.
You know, but I have to give, if I've had experience in a certain direction, because we're not, and especially the bank, community banking, I think is better at this than the larger banks.
Mm-hmm.
Is we should be able to a resource.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than trying to hit a number or close a certain number of loans or open a certain number of accounts, I really have to feel like it's putting you in a better situation.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, yeah, you could reach your quota, but if you've hoodooed me wrong, it's not going to happen again.
Right. And Brian, you've seen, as we're kind of talking about, you've seen a lot of people making decisions. You've seen those decisions pay off. You've seen those decisions not pay off. So you've got these patterns that you can apply to different situations. I'm sure by this point you're seeing a lot of patterns, right? I was curious, have you ever had a situation where you thought, man, this isn't going to work? Like maybe a business and it did. It's something that surprised you. Have you had anything like that through the years?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And
like a boutique. He's like, it's a miracle. It's been 20 years now.
No. Well, and so I'll give 2 examples, and I'm not going to be direct, but so I've got 2 friends that I've known for a long time, both customers and friends, and both of them want to get in the restaurant business. And they had no experience in restaurant business.
Oh, Lordy.
So the first one, he and I had a meeting. It was at Camp I remember, over a drink, and I explained to him the 8 or 9 reasons why
this is not a good idea.
Not a good idea. And he did it anyway, of course. And so it was not a good idea. I mean, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses. It was terrible. And he had to absorb all that. And so,
why did he want to do it so bad, Brian? What was he was seeing it and it was exciting.
Yeah, especially when it's not something you've ever done. You know, I mean,
and people will go through years and years of training, of school training, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they may have someone else that is in this business, and sometimes they think, well, if they're smart enough to do it, so am I. People are always looking to do something. And sometimes it's a personality trait. Is what I'm doing now pays well, but I want to do something else. The second person that I had the same conversation with, the reasons not to do it, he had no experience, not, if you want to do that, I appreciate it, but I wasn't going to be involved. I was not going to put a second mortgage on his house. I was not going to do that just because. And he made it work, and he's making good money. So it does happen. But as a banker, I have to be better than 99.8% correct.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm over that little bit incorrect on decisions, then I can't keep a job, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to always err on the side of being conservative.
Yep.
In addition, normally we're putting in the majority of the money the bank is. So if someone's, they're putting down 20 or 25%, that seems like a lot. Flip it the other side. We're putting 75 or 80% of those funds.
That's true.
And best case scenario for the bank is we get our little margin, a few percentage points, and that person
Man, when you put it that way, Brian, it's kind of like
I see what you did there.
I do too. I was like, I would never invest in. I'd be like, no. If somebody came to me, I'd be like, no way.
Hey, but I hear you on that. You've got to be careful. You can't say do this. You can't say don't do this. I can tell you what I know. I can give you all the information that I know is accurate. But at the end of the day, that person has to make the decision if they move forward with another bank or whatever the case might be.
And I was happy. The friend of mine, and he's reminded me of it, and I am thrilled to death that he made it work. I am so happy.
Yeah.
But I was not willing to risk.
Your reputation. I mean, it would affect. It's not just Brian. It's the bank. You know what I mean? It's the bank. Yeah.
But it's that empathy too. Is I don't want to have to be knocking on somebody's door, with a mortgage on their house or, those type things. And so, it puts you in a bad. And so I think that's one thing, empathy, and that's really even when you say no, have a good explanation of why. And I'm not going to try to talk anyone out of anything, but it is our duty to go through. Hey, here's why we can't do it, and you can still do it if you want to, but these problems still exist.
Yeah.
If you want to go forward, just know that. And the other thing is, bad news is hard to deliver.
Oh, I can't even imagine saying like we can't do it. That would be hard.
Especially if somebody's successful, right?
Right. And, it's one of those things. Breakups are bad. Giving somebody bad news, probably, I'm sure, with health-wise. Give somebody bad news when it comes to their dollars or ability to do something is really bad. But you've got to answer that phone when that person, calls and explain to them, or make that phone call and sit down with them. I worked with a lot of lenders over the years that will never speak directly if it's a turn down. It'll always be an email.
Well,
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I think you got to have, imagine a doctor delivering news via email or text, right? That's part of the gig. I was going to ask you, I've got a two-part question here. We'll start with this. Did you know, so your dad was in banking. Did you know you wanted to get into banking? How did you decide?
Hey, Daniel, on that though, I'd like to say that Brian wasn't sure where if he was going with banking or not. And I want you to keep going with that. But we're going to kind of go here, even though you can't see the store.
Okay. Yeah. Let's have a little fun. No.
I'm just saying he wasn't always going to be a banker. He could have been a menswear specialist. It wasn't Webster's close by. This is Hillcrest Mall, y'all, in what was formerly Hillcrest Mall. Didn't you work at Webster's?
I did.
Did you work at Webster's? What is Webster's?
So
it's a men's store.
Yeah, it was right between Woods and Corn Dog 7.
Yeah, so it was like, this is the only construction kind, but there was there's Woods, and then to the right of it was Webster's.
Yeah.
And Brian worked there selling menswear.
Right. And then there was somebody else that worked further down the mall that dressed like the Hamburglar. And that was that Foot Locker. And that was Winny.
Yeah. Who needs to bring that up? Nobody need. I did though. Yeah.
But Hillcrest Mall. So y'all worked at the mall at the same time?
Well, I was like, I'd go over to that mall if they needed help. Now, also, when he says I just can't do the clothing, then he said,
Oh my!
Whoa.
"That's not you, but
No.
but Brian was a lifeguard.
Many years.
Yeah. See, he's always been out there for the consumer.
So let's rewind though, and lieu of just I've got questions. So selling men's clothes. I mean, I love memory lane, but the men's clothing, right? So you were young, you were selling men's clothes. What did you take from that job? What did you learn from that job? Anything that sticks with you about how that maybe played out later in your career? I guess you learned a lot about suits, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, because I mean, there had to be. It doesn't matter. Even working at Foot Locker, I took something away from it. Well,
Yeah.
husband.
So I'll tell you how I got that job. Is my grandmother, Parentha Murdoch,
Oh wow.
was a seamstress.
Uh-huh.
For a lot of the she worked for Greenwald's downtown, which is now the new barbecue place. So she worked there for years upstairs.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I know that.
Oh, for years. Yep, upstairs. And she worked Price's, McCall's at Westgate. That was the Westgate version. And she did a little bit for Webster, and she would always buy me clothes. And so one day she would buy me once a year. If there were a church function in the summertime, she would always spring for me a suit or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And so we went there, and I guess I was 15 or 16. And so I got to meet them. They said, "Hey, do you want a part-time job?" Because I was doing the lifeguarding thing in the summer. And so we were talking. I said, "Well, my job's about to end." And that's how we got the conversation. So yeah, I worked there in the winter, but that's how I got started.
That's funny.
Yeah. And it gives me, this is not business wise, I don't guess.
Yeah.
But it gives me a greater appreciation for folks that work retail on their feet all day, dealing with customers. It is not an easy thing, and give them the largest amount of grace that you can.
Yeah. And half the things that they get yelled at for are not even their fault. It's like beyond their control, So
right. And we had a little small store, and there would be 2 or 3 of us in there. There's as many people working that store then as works maybe in a Dillard's at one time. So think about what people deal with today.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Thinking about customer service and retail, of course, you've got a team. You're going to be building a team here soon at the new bank. What is it that makes a good customer service, a teller? Because that's an important position there in the bank. You've
That's
seen
the face of the bank mostly. I mean, come on,
It is. And I think what a lot of folks don't appreciate is it's one of the tougher jobs in the bank. Really. I mean, that is not just conjecture. That is the truth, because all day long, not only they have the customer service and smiling, and they get to know their customers and call them by name and all this type of things, but they have to verify those checks. Mm-hmm. Is this check good? Was it drawn off of? Does this signature match? Mm-hmm. Does it look like it's been washed? Do I have the right account number? I mean, yesterday we had a counterfeit bill. I mean, we have machines now by and large that count, but they would count all these dollar bills and stop and go back a few bills and would find a counterfeit dollar. So there's so many things going on at the same time that it makes it a difficult job.
Yeah.
And so all those things that they're doing, and they still have to be positive and upbeat, like all of us, but it's decisions all day long.
And they have to be nice. And it's like they're protecting you, saying, "Hey, can I see some ID?" And they're like, "Do you know who I am? I'm the mayor of Spartanburg."
That is, and that happens. And so and on very rare occasions when we've had someone be consistently rude to a teller, we help them make a decision. Maybe they need to bank somewhere else.
Yeah,
because you really have to, if your tellers, you have to have a good work experience for them, because there are employees, and it's our work family, and they have to be happy. And Fidelity Bank, our motto is right by you. And so like a lot of banks, the tellers, they're always trying to push a credit card or each month pushing something different. We don't do that. But if someone brings up, hey, I'm moving, I'm going through a divorce, give them some paperwork that says, hey, if you want to get a residential mortgage, call this person. It's more to be helpful. We're trying to make sure that you're taken care of and not feeling like something being pushed on you that you don't need.
Like there's an ulterior motive,
Right.
I hate that. Yeah. It's like somebody's giving you all this interest and then they're like, so what you need is, and it's like, no. Yeah. I appreciate that too.
Right. And that's one of the things I did when I joined the bank is I went to one of our offices in Gastonia. We weren't open in South Carolina yet, and went in there to ask some questions, and everyone was so nice and smile and would look up and those type of things. And normally you can tell, hey, that's a pretty good work environment.
Yeah.
People are going out of their way to do that.
That's right. I was going to say, and so I'm sure it's on your mind. You've got, you're going to be building a team. You've probably been on banking teams that weren't so good, and then you had some that were good because you're going into new situations. And sometimes I don't know. Does anything come to mind on what you want with a good team? Like what?
Yeah. Well, and obviously you want the best group that you can get.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things probably look forward is I try not to hire. You never want to try all of us, or not all of us. I used to hire people that were like me, personality wise, would see things the same way, maybe would have the same weaknesses, have the same strengths. And although that's good if that's a friend, but if you're building a team, just like if it were a sports team, you can't have everyone, being wide receivers or everyone being a running back. And I think the first time that hit me was I was working for a bank around, I'd gotten a little bit of a bump in job in 2002, 2003. It was a local bank in Spartanburg. And there was another guy who was in my position that was my polar opposite. He had a master's in accounting. He would, if you could let him spend all day with a 400-page tax return, he could not be happier. That's what he loved. He loved it. I mean, and when it came to, putting together projections and anything that has to do with, data, he loved.
You love that.
Loved that. That was his lane, and nobody did a better job of it. And he's now got a big job with a major bank in Greenville, managing a whole side of their balance sheet. But what I learned was I could use his talents, and then he could use mine to bring in customers because we had the same job.
Yep.
And so I could bring in customers, and then some he may be better suited for. I would shift them over and let him manage those. And then some of my customers who had very complicated financials would help me. And I think that's when the light bulb, that's probably 20 years ago, kind of popped on for me is when you're hiring, think about all the skills. If you had a perfect banker, they could do all these 20 things. Well, none of us can do all these 20 things well. And that's with any job. And so if I can do 5 or 6 things well, I'll pick up somebody else to be on the team that can do 5 or 6 other things.
That's smart. That's my takeaway for the day, because honestly, that's true. Because I mean, if you don't have to get somebody just like you, that's just like, I mean, it's another you, which is great. Like you said, for a friend, but to be a well-rounded business team, you got to have a little bit of everything.
You got to know yourself. You've got to be able to, what I call like a talent scout, right? Know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are, so that you can find those and kind of admit to, hey, wait a minute, this person's better than me at doing this.
Right.
So,
and really what you just said, you got to be able, I call it calling balls and strikes. If I've got a weakness or and I need help in this one area, and that I cannot. We've got a small team here now in Spartanburg, and I've got Jonathan Walker, Tanita Miller, and Jennifer Cothran, and they're all come from different backgrounds. And Jennifer worked for attorneys' offices for years, a number of attorneys, and known her for decades. And so she handles all our documents and that type of thing. And Tanita and I have known each other since I was at Palmetto Bank. We're both at Palmetto Bank in 1999.
Whoa.
And her talents on the retail side, on the branch side, there's so much there that I don't understand. It's a huge gaping hole for me, and she understands that. And Jonathan, who's been embedded, he worked for a larger bank, and his list of customers are just different types than mine. He's got a lot more operating companies, and so it's worked well. Even with small team, as you build out, it becomes more and more difficult, because you see these little narrow lanes that you need, and you're trying to find that right piece.
That one person, yeah. And the thing is that, I mean, you've got to feel good with them too, because if I came to you for something that's not your strong suit, you want to have somebody on your team that you could feel confident saying, okay, Jenny, try this person out, you know.
That's exactly right. And so the folks that we have, I could not be happier and just thrilled who we have, because like you say, if I can't get to something, I feel perfectly fine handing that off. And we've known each other for years. And while that's important, that's not always important. Sometimes you can meet someone new, but everyone's got to get along. And, and so you can't have someone that's out of the norm as far as getting along with everybody. I mean, even one of the folks here went to elementary school with my sister Beth at Park Hills. So
that's old school.
That's old.
Yeah, so that's old school. But and so it like I say, with community banks, you got to have that. You still got to have the abilities of the larger banks, but hopefully
that hometown.
That's right. You have that empathy. You're trying to work with them. To me, it's more of a team, and so you're a team with your customer than being a transaction with your customer. Again, and that's one thing I've told my customers: I don't do transactions. I mean, if it's a relationship, if it's a one-time transaction, that's
dangerous business, isn't it? I mean,
you want to build relationships. That's the whole thing with your business. It's like, if you don't build relationships, then I don't know. To me, it's like you might do a transaction and it might be years before we do another one, but you want us to come back.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I stole the line. I think Brian had it at one point. He had relationship manager. So that's what I call myself, because from a sales standpoint, I would rather be a relationship manager than the sales guy, right? It's an ongoing business and non-transactional. So I said, you know what? I'm a relationship manager. So,
that's true in a lot of different businesses. In banking, I probably, and this is a pretty close guess, I bet you I haven't made a cold call in 15 years. And cold calls are difficult. I mean, they are. Yeah. But once you get older and been around long enough, your current customer base plus who they send to you, and then they follow you. And this is not just for banking, but any business, is those COIs. Get centers of influence that will help you. I've got a handful of attorneys, a few accountants, some commercial real estate agents, a couple of insurance brokers that take very good care of me. I probably more than half my business comes from them. And so here's the deal: I've got to make sure that I make that person as happy as I can, because I want that flow to continue. And when you do that, then they're more apt to send it to you, because they know that if they send you a person, an individual that's working with them on something, that you'll do the right thing.
And the thing is that, you know, when they send you somebody, you really take care of that person too, because it's a reflection of them. It's like if I say, go see Brian, you know, and then you do something, I'll be like, oh, great. Thanks. I won't do that again.
Right.
You know, I want to talk about this. We've got a few minutes left here. I'd like for you to talk about, you've seen probably a lot of different ways that people make money that are successful, right? And you've probably seen people that are super smart that make a lot of money. And then you've probably seen some people that maybe aren't smart, but they know their business well enough to be successful, right?
Right.
I mean, and so I think sometimes we fall into this trap of thinking that this person's that success correlates directly financially with their skill set. But there's a lot of ways to make money, right, Brian?
It's unbelievable. I think that's one of the things I guess I enjoy most being on this side of the desk with that is all the different ways that people have found to make a living.
Mhm.
And very few times now there are, we've got plenty of folks who have relationships with this. They've got a great IQ, great education, and yes, yeah, and you can see those. But by and large, it is my camera went away. By and large, it is folks that have a certain skill set,
Mhm.
a certain type of, they have come across through some years of what they enjoy doing, what they like doing, may not feel like they're really working, and they find a business, a way to make money doing that. And really, those are some, I will tell you, as you look around Spartanburg, if you walked up and down Main Street, you would not be able to pick out the folks with the highest gross income. By and large, you can't. I laugh. This has been decades ago. I had a very wealthy customer, and we were at a closing, and his glasses that he wore had broke, and he had like a roll of Scotch tape in the corner of his glasses. So much so the attorney who knew this situation said, can we take you to the Lions Club or a donation to get you some frames? But this guy could buy us all 20 times, right?
That's amazing.
It is. And so you got to find that niche that you enjoy. And the other thing is this too, you find something you enjoy, having that highest gross income isn't the biggest deal. I've seen more over the last couple of years where someone would find a job where it's enough to pay the bills, it's enough for them to be able to go out and enjoy, but they may only work 4 days a week. They may work 3 days.
But they're enjoying their life.
They're enjoying their life. Maybe on the weekends on Sunday and fall, they're not going to a Panthers game. They're not spending the night in Charlotte. They're not on the 50-yard line, but they're at home with a pizza and a beer, and they are just as happy.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you can find that, and that's what I tell a lot of my customers, hey, you got good quality of life, you got a good business running, you could hire 6 more people, but you got to put them in trucks and insurance, and then that thing starts to grow. So I think it's just finding your niche and just what you enjoy. Most of the time, what you enjoy is what you feel like isn't working. It's not like work.
Absolutely. That's what we just had a comment on too. It's like when you enjoy what you do, it's not work, because that's true. You're having fun. It's like, I love doing this,
just like the guy you work with, give him this big document to grind through and to kind of go into that zone. My dad loves programming. He loves to get into that zone. And that's the last thing in the world I'd want. You got to have a lot of focus, but they love that.
Right. And again, that's one of the things as far as bankers, everyone has their niche, but I don't really feel like I work. It's all day long. It's helping, with a question or a problem, or helping to solve something that could be with a loan or open an account. But I think it's important that people that you have a relationship with always know they can call. I mean,
always. That is key. Daniel, you got to let me say something, because we're almost out of time. And I just want to say, back before Brian was a successful banker, just wanted to say that this might ring. Now, you knew you were going to be successful when you owned this.
What in the world is that?
That's a bag phone.
It's my Motorola that plugged into my 85 Mazda RX-7.
I'm just saying, you can't hide money. You can't hide money. Yeah.
It was based. I think a text message counted as a half a minute. I only got like 60 minutes for the month, and it was like $30 or $40.
Wow. So wait a minute. Now, Brian was talking about saving money, playing it safe, but he's flexing with the bag phone at like 17.
Hey, that's when he was a lifeguard. He was selling men's clothes. He's like,
actually not. Let me explain that. The reason I got that was a business purpose. I got promoted to manager, so I had no real hours. So if I were out somewhere, I had to be able to be reached.
Really?
That's why I got it. And so
I didn't know that.
If someone needed me, I couldn't go back to Alberta Drive to get a message from my mom.
It's awesome.
I love it. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So this is exciting times. I do want to talk about so you guys right now have kind of a temporary office in Spartanburg,
Yes.
and you've got the piece of property. Do you want to tell folks where the new bank's going to be?
It is. It's I'll tell you, it's right in the corner of North Church Street and Daniel Morgan. It used to be a First Citizens. They were kind enough to sell us the property. It's right beside the Marriott. And
Yeah.
Right beside the Marriott. If you're familiar with Spartanburg, you know this is the location. Just a fantastic. Jenny, right across the street from the Marriott.
Oh, it's okay. So it's on that corner. I got you.
right.
Right
And
there across the street on Daniel Morgan on the corner.
Wow.
that's right, across Daniel Morgan. We're going to knock that building down. And if we can get approval from the city, hopefully soon. That's the one thing, Jenny, you asked at the outset. I don't know when we're going to finish it. I think construction should take about a year, but we got to get through some things with the city.
You want me to put in a few phone calls, Brian, with the city?
I might need you to, because the city has that very good standards, but they're trying to draw into that urban planning type of thing, and we're right on the edge of that.
Yeah.
But I could, if I were you were to give me a map and say, where do you think a good property to build a bank would be? This is far and away number one.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I agree. That's
Y'all
going to be fantastic.
Y'all have a temp in Spartanburg, temporary location?
We do. We have full office. We can handle teller transactions and loans. We're in Lafayette Street, right behind Sugar and Spice. So Whit Bishop's law office. So we've got some offices in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if you're out there and maybe you're thinking about getting into banking, maybe you're a loan officer now, maybe you're want to become a teller. A teller's a great place to start. I mean, you can learn a lot, right?
Yes.
So you're going to be needing all of those things here over the next couple of years. But
we're doing a lot of hiring. I think we're building about 9,000 square feet. So we've got a lot of different positions to fill.
So if you want to work at a cool bank, work with Brian Murdoch and create that team. I know it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and I'm happy for you and excited for the bank. And
I'm happy that you're back in Spartanburg.
And excited for Spartanburg, right? I mean, Spartanburg's growing, and so when we have things like this, it's nice to see people that we grew up with kind of being a part of that too. So good times.
It is. Happy we got it moving forward. And Fidelity's a 114-year-old bank, been around a long time, but again, new to Spartanburg. So
it is new to Spartanburg, and I like that. And I like that you're back in Spartanburg, even though I did. Just to show y'all what kind of banker Brian is, he went to Greenville. I followed him to Greenville. I mean, really, so it's like, yes. So I'm so excited. And where is it going to be? Like, is there a branch in Greenville? Is it going to be? There's one in Gastonia, apparently.
There's two in Gastonia, one in Shelby, and we've got the biggest market share of any bank in Shelby. And we've got an office in Greenville on East North Street. So
nice.
I'm going to go down to Fidelity Bank today. I'm going to be like, guess what?
That's it. Yeah.
I know somebody.
Well, Brian, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
It's been a lot of fun to reminisce, talk about the banking industry. Jenny, Winny, always great to see my cousin Jenny, Winny.
Always.
So, hey, everybody, have a great day. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. See ya.